All right. Greetings, everybody. My name is Verol Billett, and this is.
I'm Jason Henry.
All right. So, this is a brand new thing for us, Jason. And some crazy idea came about sometime last year, and we decided to start a podcast.
That's right.
It's a podcast. Well, the idea really is to start a podcast to create a space where men can talk about different things. We're two
Right.
psychologists, and we saw the need
Mhm.
to just share some man views. It was a struggle to come up with a name.
It really was. We had many great suggestions and some not so great suggestions too, but
Right.
we settled on
Unheard.
Unheard.
So, welcome to the Unheard podcast. We're going to be talking about different things. And as two psychologists, we have definitely heard many
That's
different
good. That's good. Yes.
many different things from men, from women, parents, children, from all over the place.
Right.
And it's valuable information. We're not going to spill people business. We're not into that. We do believe in confidentiality. But we want to talk about the things that we observe just generally in society and hopefully share some tips with you about how to handle certain things, especially as men from our standpoint. I know for me, I've heard from many women that men or mindset is a mystery.
I mean, the sentiment is shared, I'm sure, but yes, I mean, I think even we are a mystery to ourselves sometimes.
I think so, and I think part of that is we don't spend a lot of time to get to know ourselves.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
So hopefully through this medium we're able to explore quite a bit. And I guess today we can jump into the topic, right?
Let us do so. Yes.
All right. So today there's something that was trending, I think, on social media some weeks ago, months ago, probably
At this point, it might be 2 months or
about
so.
two
Yeah,
months.
maybe 2 months.
There's a phrase, "Man full of them stress," and I think it's important that we give some attention to this. And it's just looking at men and stress in general,
Right.
right? What men are stressed over?
A lot. Many things. So,
Right. So I guess first of all, if we're gonna be talking about stress, Jason, don't you
yes.
think it'd be important to establish what stress is?
That's a good point, Verol. So I guess stress would be, mental, physical, physiological. Um, what do you call that? Strain, tension, discomfort, a heaviness,
Mm-hmm.
a certain, just like a lack of homeostasis, even.
Homeostay,
You
what?
see what I'm saying? Like I'm going to have it. All right. So basically, it's just intense discomfort that could be physical, mental, psychological, and the effects of which we'll get into.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something that is having a largely problematic, deleterious effect on society.
All right. Michael brought that down a little further.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Right. But I agree. I understand what you're saying.
Right.
But I think if we could simplify it even more, it would pretty much be feeling taxed. All your resources,
Yeah.
external, money, uh, your physical space being taxed. There are so many demands. Your internal resources also, your patience, your compassion, your ability to cope. You just feel as if you're running out of resources to match the demands that exist
Right.
in daily life.
So basically, it's like the problems of life are just too much.
Feeling as if they're too much.
Why
In
didn't I say
some
that before?
cases,
That sounds so simple. Like, it's the stress of the first episode. So just chill, please. Thank you.
right. Stress of the first episode.
It just worked. That was brilliant. Yes. Okay, good. We're good.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. So, in pretty much, when we're talking about stress, we we can't get rid of it. Full stop. It exists. You're gonna stress out. Different things are going to be problematic
Right.
in your life. So when we're talking about stress, we have to think about coping.
Right.
We're not ready for the coping part. We really want to really talk about
Mhm.
stress and stressors. And stressors are the things that stresses you out, pretty much.
Well, would you want to talk about the cultural and the historical impact first?
Well, before we get into that, I think we need to establish that
Mhm.
there are good stress and there's bad
Okay,
stress.
yeah. All right, speak on that.
Mhm. So good stress, things that are good for you, you enjoy doing them, but you can admit that they are taxing. They're pulling a lot on your resources, but you're able to meet these demands, and then hopefully you're able to put a pause and rejuvenate and get yourself back together.
Hmm.
So if you enjoy your work, it can still feel stressful. You get up, you go to work every single day. Yes, there are persons out there who love their work and they enjoy doing what they're doing, but it does take a toll on their ability to function after a
Right.
while.
It's kind of like working out, you
Just like
know?
working out.
Yeah. There's stress in that, but the gains that you get back are good. And of course,
Mhm.
you're not like lifting weights like every day, all the time. You have to rest eventually
Mhm.
because if you don't, then it's kind of defeating the purpose.
Right, right. And then the negative stress is what I think a lot of us think about when we talk about think about stress from the very beginning. This depleting sense of doom,
Yeah, that's good.
like you can't manage no more, and you're worried, you're frustrated, you're cross, you're angry, you're miserable. You just want to consult everybody. You can't bother with people. That's typically some of the characteristics of negative stress.
Mhm.
Mhm. Now, as men, are men stressed? I think
Can I speak for myself?
it's a legit question. Yes, I think you should. And we only can talk for ourselves right now.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I don't want to make myself into like the grand poobah of all men. Like, oh yes, I can speak for all of them. But I get stressed, of course. But I think knowing men, they're fairly stressed, and I think, as you said before, Verol, it's not that stress is something that is avoidable.
Mhm,
It's just that a lot of people, whether men or women, but people have a problem dealing with it. And I
mhm.
think men specifically have less outlets, less options, less processes, even less, just less yeah, just overall just less options with which to actually like deal with that stress.
Being a bit controversial here, hear what you say.
Okay.
Is it that men truly have less options in
Oh. Okay.
dealing with their stress?
Mhm.
And what options are you thinking of? Right?
Well, as in, okay, well, yeah, I mean, they don't really have less options, but I think in their mind they have less options.
Mm,
So, whereas maybe with women, they can go talk to a girlfriend and just like shoot the breeze and just talk about, oh, Charlie did this, whatever. I don't know why I did that, but I'll do that every now and then, probably. But the
mm,
point is, like, they can talk about certain things, and I think with men, I mean, I know for me, definitely, and we've spoken about this before in terms of just
mhm,
like adolescence and the actually the tendency to hold up your stress for real and not really share what's going on because, like, well, if I share it, is that going to increase the stress? If I share it, am I even really growing up into being a man? Because, like, you see them growing up, you don't necessarily see them sharing their problems. You don't necessarily hear them talking about, oh yes, Margaret, I'm having these problems and I want to share my challenges with you, my
mhm.
spouse or my friend or whoever. It's rare.
You brought up a very valid point, and I guess that's touching into the cultural aspect of things. from a societal standpoint, I guess. But what something just dawned on me. This whole term, man fall up in stress, or statement rather, is just another iteration that man feels tough it out. Man feels figure it out. And I'm not saying nay. I think we all need to figure it out. However, I think the crucial component that you've just identified is women are more likely to share and tap into their social support systems.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. So they'll talk to probably a sibling, their sister, their cousin, whoever they're close to. While men, yo, I can't talk about that something I can't talk about. So, yo, my paycheck not covering all my expenses. I have to go, probably go take out a loan, or I have to probably go just avoid eating something so that the children can have lunch money for the rest of the week or something like that.
Or have to bad up somebody.
Or I have to bad up somebody,
Yeah.
right? Can't talk about some woman I give a bun because I look like a fool, right? So there's so many things which I think we probably have to acknowledge
Yeah.
that these issues are very, whatever is stressing you out, it's a very real thing. And I want to point that out because it is dependent on the individual. What makes somebody, what stresses someone is dependent on the individual or who the person is.
Absolutely, yeah. The social context, familial context,
The
all these
individual
different things.
resources.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because what stresses me out may not stress you out.
No, that's true. I mean, there are maybe some universals, like I guess financially, a lot of people, like if you see that you lack money,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people get stressed for something like that. But some people were, again, raised in certain environments where even if they lacked it, they didn't necessarily feel like they were gonna like lose their life or
Mm-hmm.
die. Some people like they feel like if I don't have money I'm gonna like be on the street and die alone, and some people
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like that at all because they have that, again,
Mm-hmm.
social environment and social connections to know that fine, I may not have I may not be able to do what I want to do right
Mm-hmm.
now, but I won't die.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different for people.
It's very, very different. And I think maybe
Mhm.
as men, we live our lives in such a way where we try to put out our best, right? We want to be seen as strong, we want to be seen as independent, we want to be seen as having our stuff together. Mind you, there's nobody in life that I've ever met that have it all figured out.
Or they were pretending.
Pardon?
Or they were pretending.
Or they're pretending.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are pretending, if not all of us. Or we just recognize that we don't have it all together, and that's fine, but we're doing the best we can with the resources we have. Okay? And but we project this image that, I have it all figured out. I have the car, I have the house, I have the land, I have the children, I have the family, life good. Yo, I'm a good man. Yo, Virgin, long time in the see everything all right. Yeah, man, it good man work. My dad do my work and may I work up to that big bonus or that promotion and everything good. But deep down inside, we know say, yo, you know that you're not good.
Yeah. Because like what you're not saying is that for the past like 4 or 5 nights you can't sleep.
Yeah.
Um, there are certain thoughts popping in your mind, and you're like, "What the hell is that?" They could be of any kind of nature,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, "What the hell does that mean? Why would my mind throw up such a weird thought,
Mm-hmm.
such a dangerous thought, strange thought, weird thought, confusing thought?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what it means, you don't know where it stems from, but it is certainly stressful."
Very, very stressful.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you want to be around your family. You love your family, whether it's your kids, your spouse, or your mother, your father, whomever it is, your friends, you love them, but you just don't want to be around them because of the load, oftentimes emotional load, that is on you that you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But we keep it on the inside. There's a lot of internalization that happens, I feel, among men. We internalize a lot. And it has its purpose, don't get me wrong, but doing it too much is damaging.
I think this is a good jump off point for that cultural historical thing. Because
Hmm.
like if you really think about it, especially like the Jamaican context as black men, right?
Hmm.
So if we're thinking about it from the context of like the transatlantic slave trade and all that stuff,
Hmm.
right? You already would have like several generations worth of the destruction of that same social the family,
Hmm.
that same social support.
Hmm.
Okay, so they separate you from the people you know,
Hmm.
then you go to work for a pittance, right?
It has indeed.
You then are maybe, yeah, you're forced to do certain things you don't want to do. And what do you have to do but
Hmm.
tough it out? What do you have to do but hold up your stress? Because if
Hmm.
you don't hold up your stress, you're gonna die. Or you want to hold up your stress so that maybe one day you can see your wife again or your kids again. Or that you just want freedom.
But if we're going back to slavery, what wife, what children? Remember, they really separated because you're just a breeder.
Precisely. But if you had it in West Africa, you don't have that
Mm.
anymore. That's gone now.
Mm.
And so you think about like several generations of that, you know, genetically speaking, epigenetically speaking, what is that really doing to us today? What's the
Hmm.
psychological impact of that today? Because now you're thinking about a culture where you're thinking about contemporary times, where like who am I? And what am I gonna do?
Ooh,
Yeah, maybe I went too deep with that
no,
one.
go right
Okay,
ahead.
okay, okay. Well, I'm like, yo, so if I don't know who I am, because like again, I got separated and my ancestors got separated.
Hmm.
I have a more, and I'm now in the new world, and it's all this kind of more Eurocentric thing, right? I have to now adapt to that, but I'm still disconnected from some ancient stuff that, for whatever reason, I will never, like, I may never question why that is important. Because, well, I don't know about that. I don't know about no African religion. I don't know about no African tradition. I don't know nothing about that,
Hmm.
right? And maybe for some people it means little, but you look at the manifestation of it today, where you look at other races
Hmm.
and how they approach problems. Because if you can approach a problem with confidence, then you're probably going to be okay, right? It's not necessarily that you know what to do, but you know you'll be okay regardless of what happens. And that's more of an attitude towards the problem rather than I know what to do, because you don't always know what to do, right?
Far from it.
And so I'm thinking to myself, in that context, in the contemporary context, the context of today, what does the black man do? What does the Jamaican do to illustrate confidence? If all I've ever seen is boss gun, if all I've ever seen is
Badness,
badness, right, tough face,
silence,
silence, um,
ignoring the problem,
ignoring the problem,
run
not
away,
ever being sensitive,
run away from the
running
problem.
away from the problem, which by the way increases stress, guys. So don't do that. Right? You do all of that kind of stuff. Because why? Because that's what it means to be a man. That's what it means to be confident. And if
Hmm.
that's what you think it is, when you look at other races or other people or even other black men who don't do that kind of stuff, who are more calm and reserved, who, when it's time to push badness, then push it. They're not doing it all the time chronically because they think every single issue, every single obstacle must be met the exact same way. There's like a certain like variability
Mm-hmm.
in how you approach different things rather than just doing the same thing and just like kicking over people every time you see some
Mm-hmm.
issue. If you've never seen that different approach to stress, what are you really gonna do?
That's a pretty solid question. You spoke about confidence, right? And the question that popped in my head when you mentioned that is, because I think you asked the question, uh, what does confidence look like in the Jamaican man? And the question that popped in my head is, are we talking about the facade of confidence
That's exactly it.
or true confidence? Because for me, confidence, as you said, confidence is not about knowing what to do every time. Confidence for me is acknowledging one, that there is anxiety within me because I don't know, and two, that there is some amount of self doubt in this whole process.
Brilliant. Yes.
But at the same time, I am still going to show up and do and meet my commitments, my obligations, or what I think I need to do to enhance or to progress nonetheless.
Absolutely.
But there's also a component that I think is absolutely necessary with that mindset is recognizing that I do have a support system that no matter what, they love me, they care for me, they will help me up if I fall,
And they won't push you
they
down.
won't push me down, and they're there to encourage me, and there's no judgment. So if tomorrow I wake up and I did not hit a particular target, I know that my friends and my family, my I love my co-workers, they're not gonna beat me down. They're say, okay, let's wheel and come again. What needs to be done? How can I help you? Mm. And I feel like not many men feel like that. And some men, in reality, if we're being honest, in the Jamaican society, there are a number of men I think they don't have that. It's probably a luxury.
Yeah. As you were speaking, I literally was hearing the, I don't know, just the average Jamaican man saying, "But what if me not have that?"
Right. Which brings us to a word that personally I love because I find that for you to experience true strength, you kind of have to embrace this word, and that's vulnerability. But if I tell a Jamaican man, say, yo, you have to be vulnerable, it's like you're telling bad word.
It's like you're telling him be weak, essentially.
Yeah. But how I see it, and you can share your views, I'd love to hear your views on this one. I've spent some of my younger years not being vulnerable because it's a sign of weakness. If I'm vulnerable, it means I am going to be a target. Persons are going to take advantage of me. Persons are going to hurt me. But in doing that, I ended up hurting myself because I'm closed off. I can't share me. I got through with nobody.
Right.
But I was hurting myself.
Right.
But in embracing being vulnerable, I found strength. It sounds weird to
Almost contradictory, right?
right,
Mhm.
but in being able to admit that I need help and then figuring out, and I think this is important, figuring out who to go to for help
Mm.
was very, very helpful in getting over that hump. What say you?
So yeah, I mean, I don't even have much notes on that. All I can just add is um, just just a little spice on that because I think you hit the nail on the head, Verol, because the fact of the matter is, as much as strength is honored and weakness is vilified, That is like the fundamental mistake. Because the reality of the situation is, how you going to be strong if you weren't weak first? I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know how you're going to be strong if you're not going to admit that you're weak first. So when you're talking about the vulnerability aspect now, if I'm choosing to run away from the vulnerability that I am weak, I will never be strong. It can't happen because all I'm gonna do is be like, yo, me can't tell people say I'm weak, can't tell people say me can't live 200 pounds, me can't deadlift 200 pounds, me can't tell people that, can't tell people say, um, the girl thing kind of scary and I don't know what to talk to girls. Da, 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 da. I don't know if I can tell people about, you know, some gender identity issue that I'm having. Am I really what are you talking like the trans thing or not? Just in terms of just like being a man and what that means, being a woman and what that means. And maybe you have a certain behavior trait that comes out in a certain context, and it's like, should I even do this right now? I don't think this is the right thing to do. Crying, crying, crying is so. Oh my god, you know what, dude? Come on. I mean, that is weak in and of itself. And I'm telling you, if I had a dime for every person, I'm not even talking clans. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about people in life. And I'm a people in life. I'm like, yo, how many dudes you know really gonna be like, you know what? I need a good cry right now. I don't know many. I don't know many.
What man to cry?
No, we don't have tear ducts. We weren't evolved to have tear ducts.
Oh man to cry.
Yeah.
Listen, I've heard it time and time again. I am only as a man, you're only allowed, or we're only allowed to be angry and happy. Two emotions.
I guess horny too. I guess.
Eh,
You have to
I
have
guess
that.
that's debatable if it's an emotion or not.
Yeah,
But
that's true. I mean, it's Jamaica, so yeah.
but we can. We should have an episode about men and sex, because that
That would
one
be
would be
important.
interesting.
Yeah.
But playing devil's advocate right now,
Hmm.
as we're talking, I think it's important that we acknowledge what or Jamaican reality.
Yes.
I think one of the reasons in which many men, boys, into men hold on to that narrative, it's out of survival.
Yes.
If we really meds the situation, it's really out of survival.
Yeah.
Because in certain communities, you can't behave a certain type of way.
Yeah.
Or you get beaten.
Yeah. Yeah. It does go
Mhm.
back to what we're talking about in terms of like being able to see the vulnerability. And even if you were one of those people that
Mhm.
figured that out, oh
Mhm.
yeah, I really should be vulnerable. Yeah, I
Mhm.
shouldn't run away from my emotions. Oh, if I'm stressed, I should speak up. What are the repercussions of that?
Mm.
Because socially, that might be a heavy tax.
Heavy, heavy. So I think it therefore needs for us to. We're not saying
Hmm.
you can't be who you are. If you're one of them thuggish type of you, then all right, fine.
Hmm.
But it's more about the mindset, thinking about what is healthy
Hmm.
for us as men as we cope with stress, because stress not going away.
Hmm.
If you have pitney, you have pitney, and you have to take care of pitney, you have to take care of pitney.
Yeah.
Economically, I'm not no economist, but a lot of persons are struggling financially,
Yeah.
right? And that is taxing. Socially speaking, being hyper vigilant because we're living in a society that is filled with crime and different social issues, that is cause for stress.
Yeah.
Mhm. Educationally, boy, education system can work for some people. You're not pushing to. You're not being. You're not able to attain what you would like to attain academically because of varying issues, and the different things overlap.
Yeah.
Because if you're hungry, you can't learn.
No.
And then thinking about meeting expectations as a young lad growing up, you're trying to meet the expectations of different people, but your mind is such that it is difficult to concentrate. You work hard, and it's not that you're lazy, but it's genuinely hard.
Mm. So then there's a dilemma here, isn't there? So on the one hand, you know, we're psychologists. If you want to trust us, you trust us. If you don't, you don't. But at the end of the day,
Trust us.
I would recommend that. Um, because we've seen what society says when it says how to deal with stress. Quite literally, they'll tell you on a podcast, not this one, obviously not this one, but on other ones, hold up your stress.
All of the stress. And
But what are the ramifications of really holding up your stress?
but hear me out.
Yeah.
Let's say we say to you, I don't think it's a bad idea to say hold up your stress. If it
Okay.
means being resilient, taking on
Mm,
the attitude of resiliency. What that means is you are going to seek ways to handle your stress or your stressors well, which means tapping into the different alternatives that are
yeah.
healthy
Yeah.
to help you to cope. Okay? So tapping into social support, healthy social support. And I think
Mm,
I want to talk about that a little bit.
okay.
Healthy social support, tapping into uh, basically as a human being, as psychologists, we use the biopsychosocial model a lot
Right.
because as human beings, we have our biological side, we have the psychological, and we have the social side. And creating healthy spaces in all three is very, very helpful. So, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, your emotions, your mindset, and taking care of your social space.
Right.
Absolutely important. A combination of the three, very, 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 very helpful in managing stress.
Yes.
But the social support. Have you ever heard? It doesn't have to be from your sessions, but
Hmm.
have you ever heard people talking about, me go to that person and them couldn't help me, so why should I go to somebody else? Um,
Unfortunately, yes. I've heard it.
or I went to my brethren
Yeah.
and he told me something, an idiot. Just go sit down and you'll talk to two girl and
Yeah.
everything will be all right. And gentle people, yes, your family members. Hopefully they love you. I know some people don't have feel as if they don't have loving family members.
Mm.
Some people say that they don't have friends. But all of us, I think, should have persons to be there to talk to and to help us out. But
Hmm.
take note, you can't expect yourself from everybody. You can't expect yourself from other people. Everybody, I live them life. And as men, we need to know this. Everybody, I live them life. Everybody, I do them thing. And what you want or what you may need, even though this is your partner, this is your parent, this is your sibling, your brethren, your best friend, they may not have what you need. So you probably need to go to somebody else.
All right. But it goes back to what I was saying before in terms of the dilemma.
Okay.
The dilemma of I could listen to Verol and Jason. I guess they're professionals. I guess they studied it stuff. So I guess maybe they have a point. But those guys are gonna make fun of me if I don't do what they say. And I want that social approval
Mm,
more than I want to listen to two guys on a camera on YouTube or Instagram or wherever you find this. And I think that is like such a strong dilemma
mhm.
that if it isn't addressed, we kind of I don't know. I think that is like the thing to address.
So, what would we say to persons who
Mhm.
are in such a dilemma?
All right. So I think the first thing is that the social environment is largely or often not, often not in your control, because let's face it, if you're in a family where you don't necessarily feel seen, you don't necessarily
Mhm.
feel heard, you don't necessarily feel respected, and even if you are all those things, you could still go to school and maybe don't feel that way, go to work not feel that way, be
Mhm.
with your spouse, you don't feel that way. And so, someone that is out of your control. What is in your control? The thing that is in your control is your attitude to yourself,
Mhm.
right? The first thing I would say in terms of that attitude to the self is that when that stress comes up, I
Mhm.
would not just reach for the guineas. I would not just reach for the spliff. I would not just reach for
Guineas.
the,
Sorry,
yeah.
Guineas light, man.
Oh, real? Okay. Dragon then. But yeah, I wouldn't just reach for um the hard liquor, the whatever. I wouldn't just reach for the distraction,
Mhm.
right? If I reach for the distraction, I'm only increasing the stress. I get a temporary distraction from it,
Ease.
right? Temporary relief,
Mhm.
and then I go back to the stress because the stress doesn't go anywhere, right? So you're just accumulating more and more and more, taxing yourself more and more and
Mhm.
more, which then leads to more addictive tendencies, where you then start to cling more and more and more to these things because these are the things that give you that relief.
And you tend to increase the potency, their
Exactly.
dosage as you go along, because
Exactly.
the old dose not going to work anymore.
Exactly. You just get used to it. The
Mhm.
tolerance, your tolerance is going to get more like higher and higher and higher. So this is why I would then recommend, like, because again, I'm not saying like if you have your vices and whatever, but like,
Everyone has devices, but
right. So
we
it's
have to
not
be cognizant of why we're using them, how we're using them, and
right.
is it that we are trying to avoid something?
Exactly, right? So that right there, what you just said.
Hmm.
Am I trying to avoid something? If I'm trying to avoid something, and this is going to be new for like a lot of people. So what I would
Hmm.
really recommend is like, yeah, you can have the drink, you can have sex, you can have distractions, but start just maybe like a 3, 4, 5 minutes. Feel what you're feeling.
Can I interject, please?
Go ahead.
Before, as a way to prepare yourself to feel what you're feeling,
Go
being
ahead.
honest, be honest with yourself.
Yes.
Be honest with yourself.
Yes.
Before you can be honest with anybody else, be honest with yourself. You're not all right. Things are not as you want them to be. What am I feeling?
Thank you for saying that, because the truth is a lot of people, they'll then maybe try to deny
Mm.
that, oh, I'm they're feeling that discomfort, and then like something might click in their brain and it's like, no man, we're good, yeah, we're good, yeah. And it, you're not. And so being honest with yourself will help,
Hmm.
because that honesty, that transparency, that vulnerability with yourself. I mean, okay, you don't want to be vulnerable with other people, cool. Can you do it with yourself? If you can do it for yourself, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. Again, there are certain things that you can't necessarily control, but I would say if you can be vulnerable with yourself, i.e., can you be honest with yourself?
Hmm.
You can then be like, okay, you know what, I'm not feeling that great. And then you can actually like sit with what you're feeling. You can honor it. It may be intense. If it is intense, cool, back off. Go distract yourself. Because it really might be that
Hmm.
intense,
Hmm.
right? And so you're going to need a breather. You're going to need some time to kind of like just kind of breeze the
Hmm.
problems of life. So we're not here trying to tell you like, yo, go to Himalaya, go to Blue Mountain and just sit down and just meditate and them things. I'm not necessarily tell you for that. If you want to do that, then, yo, big up yourself. That's cool. But
Do so responsibly.
right. And so ultimately, right, with that same dilemma, going back to that, just
Hmm.
to summarize, there are certain things where it's like it's tricky. I want to listen to Verol and Jason because maybe they have a point, but at the same time, can I really be this more sensitive person and feel stuff and be vulnerable and yada yada for deal with my stress when I might be judged by my peers, I might be judged by my community, I might be judged by my family. One thing you can do, don't betray yourself. Just give yourself that opportunity, even if it's just like a 5 minutes, for
Mm-hmm.
just be honest with
Mm-hmm.
yourself and just feel what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then see, just see what happens
Mm-hmm.
after that. If it's something that makes sense, you might just continue to do it.
All right, thanks for that, Jason, because you really tapped into the whole notion of what it means to pay attention to what you have control over, which is
Yes.
yourself.
Yes.
That's the only thing you have control over. I feel like a lot of times, and I see this among a lot of people, but definitely I've seen it with many in general. When things happen, there is this tendency to want to try and control all the external factors. All the external factors. Find out your woman and your bun, you want
Yeah.
control that situation. You want do
Because the
something to
problems
the
are
man
external, right?
because the problems are external.
Sometimes.
Okay? But the reality is the first thing is to focus on self.
Right.
And the same things that Jason just said, that's pretty much what he's saying. Focus on self and do those things. And then learning how to calm down. Because when stress is at its peak, emotion, what we call emotion dysregulation,
Yes.
is what we're seeing. Whether you implode or you explode, you cuss and you quarrel and you do your whatever, right? Or you go quiet and you avoid, you take yourself away from your loved ones, whatever it is. But you have to learn how to regulate yourself, to
Mhm.
give yourself clarity so you can figure out, okay, how do I approach this problem? How do I try and solve this if possible? Or do I need to adjust
Mhm.
my mindset, my attitude,
Mhm.
so that I can cope? Or do I need to adjust my mindset so I can accept these things that I can change and
Yes.
figure out how to rework and adjust? And this is all about resilience.
Yes.
All about resilience.
Yes.
Mhm. I know, I don't think we said this, but we're both psychologists at Dr. K.D. Morgan and
Oh,
Associates,
yeah. Yeah.
right? 68 Lady Musgrave Road, Kingston 10. And we also have a nonprofit organization, KAHLE Journey Limited, where we're focused on creating a trauma-informed society. Actually, we're in the show right now.
I'm gonna put the graphic on the thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And I'm mentioning this right now because KAHLE Journey, which is where we're going to be posting, you're watching this podcast. Wow, that's interesting to say. And on the same YouTube channel, we have a series. It's called the Tough It Out and Build series. Really and truly, these are a set of skills that you can watch to learn how to. You just learn them and use them so that you can help yourself regulate your own emotions. Learn how to regulate the emotions and take back control of self. Right? Trust me, there's something there for everybody. And it's nothing too hard. Simple things that you can use. When you go kickball or play whatever sport you want to play, these are things that you can pull in, start as part of your preparation, and continue with your ball game. When you're at work, when putting them stress you out, when school are called because school fee for pay, all these things you can incorporate in your daily life. And I feel like as men, we're physical beings, so there's something there that you can use. It's not just the gym. The gym is very important, right? The gym is very, very important. Working out, getting physical exercise is very, very important. Paying attention to your diet is very important.
Mhm.
Um, Watching your social circle very important. But we can't leave off mental fitness and making sure that we're doing things habitually to care for our mental health.
So I think this is maybe the more scarier part. Um, going back to the topic, or specifically going back to the topic,
Mm-hmm.
the negative manifestations or consequences of not really dealing with that stress. Not to scare y'all, we're not trying to scare you, but we're trying to just be real here, right?
Yeah.
Because I think when it comes to
Yeah.
the the negatives,
Mm-hmm.
this is something I often say to clients. Everybody have pain, but you're going to do one or two things. You're either going to hurt people or you're going to hurt yourself. But there's a third
Or
option, which is
both.
doing both.
Yeah. And I think it's a good time. I think one of the reasons this even started this whole podcast, or it added to the list of reasons rather. Earlier this year, in our newspapers, it reported that last year there were 64 suicides. 64 suicides, and 61 of the 64 were males. That's a problem. Look into our criminal justice system or prisons. We have mostly male prisons. We have mostly male juvenile centers. And I think that is those numbers are saying to us something needs to be done as men. Our society is our society, but we only can control ourselves really. So we need to figure out, okay, how am I going to protect myself? How am I going to live a healthy life? And it's important because persons commit suicide because they feel like they don't have any other option.
Right.
This is it. My life is it has ended. I'm there's this intense internal pain, emotional pain that I can't get rid of, and I feel like I have no option. Which also highlight the fact that really and truly we should be our brother's keeper.
I mean, that's what the Bible said, right?
Mhm. We not just the Bible, a number of different belief systems
That is true. That is actually true. Yes.
tap into that. Out of many, one people.
That's my favorite one. Yeah.
That's our
Yeah.
motto,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's important that we be kind to each other. Not everybody is going to live life the way you do. Well, you're not going to agree with everything, but we can still show up and support and give a listening ear,
Hmm.
and we can, if persons ask for it, give advice.
Hmm.
In addition to that, other negative effects, the research will tell you a number of high levels of stress. Let's phrase it this way: high levels of stress, chronic stress. So that is feeling elevated levels of stress over a long period of time can lead to the development of what is it? Chronic illnesses, non-communicable diseases.
I was like, what is the answer to this? I figure it's like hypertension. I'm going to say, oh,
So,
right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
so high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, sugar,
Heart attack,
heart problems, cancer,
ulcers,
ulcers, all these different things.
respiratory issues, digestive issues, sexual issues as well. Yeah.
In my, so I don't think I do it as much now, but I give a lot of talks about male mental health because it's a genuine interest of mine. And I've been asked to talk many times about male mental health in various spaces. And one of the questions I usually get, do you get men coming into therapy?
Mm.
And I said, yes, I do, but they're usually dragged here by their spouse,
It's like a
their
last resort.
girlfriend, if it's a child, their parent.
Hmm.
And sometimes, many a times, it's an ultimatum that was
Right.
given.
Yeah.
Or they come to therapy because they were referred by their doctor because their penises are no longer working as efficiently as it used to be. So because of sexual issues, and there's nothing medically that is wrong. It's a psychological issue
Right.
that causes that problem. And some persons laugh, but there is something very, very scary about not having your penis working. So you are willing to do whatever you need to do.
I mean, that is what makes you a man. And a lot of people, for a lot of people, like if I can't perform, and sure, I don't want to make it seem like that's the only thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it is for many
Mm-hmm.
a very, very fundamental thing. So I can understand that totally.
Mm-hmm. Right? And so that's because of stress. Work is so overpowering right now that you can't perform at home. So there's a lot of things that we go through as men. We stay silent about it, but men, as we discussed, go through stress,
For sure.
experience stress.
Mhm.
And whether we call it, man, if we just toughen up and just deal with things,
Mhm.
man a man, so you have to figure it out, or man, if we just wall up and stress. Personally, I'm gonna say no, don't wall up your stress, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I don't think you can do it alone.
Okay.
I think having some help with, in addition to healthy coping mechanisms,
Mhm.
it's very, 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 very helpful and healthy in coping with the stress. So you have stress, you should have healthy ways of coping with it.
Right.
So you can wall up your stress. Actually, wall up your stress and work through your stress.
Yeah. So I like the fact that you were able to frame it in a more positive way because how I heard it and the context in which it came up
Right.
first wasn't particularly positive, nor was it
Hmm. Encouraging.
encouraging or dare I say sensitive. It really wasn't. It was the
Hmm.
kind of thing that you would hear because again, that's what you saw growing up. So as far as you're concerned, or anybody's concerned, it only makes sense that this must be how
Hmm.
it is, despite the negative repercussions of it.
Yeah. So, guys, I hope you watched. I hope you found it
Learned,
interesting at the very
right?
least
Yeah,
and useful. This We're starting something here, hoping that it will grow and be a space for a lot of people to learn, for men to listen and get something from it. I
and I guess for women too, to
and
kind of to
yeah,
demystify the man.
and to learn what men need.
Yeah,
Hopefully, I'm not saying that both Jason and I can represent the entire male sample of Jamaican males. I don't think so.
no,
But at the
probably not.
same time, there are things that are common,
Yeah,
right? And sharing, or from a psychological standpoint, some of the things too, I think would be very beneficial to a lot of us, because I'm
yeah,
sure we will be learning as well.
absolutely.
So, if you found us to be interesting, hopefully you want to see more of us, please, what I'm saying,
Subscribe, like, and
like,
subscribe.
share, and subscribe.
Right.
Comment. You can even share what you'd want us to talk about from a male standpoint, as
Yeah.
male psychologists, that sort of thing. Topics that you'd want us to possibly cover.
Yeah.
We have a list that we're going to be working through. So who knows, maybe it's already on the list, or if not, we'll try and add it. So please support us. Come on, Hula Vibe. We're gonna try and post what,
Twice a month, right?
twice for the month. So let's see what happens. Again, I am Verol.
I'm Jason.
We are both psychologists from Dr. Katie Morgan and Associates, also representing KAHLE Journey Limited, aiming to create a trauma-informed society. All right, pick up yourself.
Thanks for watching.